Hello, my name is Koray Tuğberk GÜBÜR and I am the owner and founder of Holistic SEO and Digital. And in this video, I will try to explain why the Bill Slawski is the greatest SEO ever and a search philosopher, and why I define him as the Charles Darwin of the search engine optimization. And during the video, probably speaking will be a little harder than in other videos since the person who has left the world, he is one of the reasons for me to continue to do SEO and create my own agency. So it's not that easy to do. Accept the truth that things change a lot. So I will explain who was the Bill Slawski. I have put some screenshots from our talk for the last 3 years, I believe, or 4. And I will explain how I met with SEO by the Sea or Bill, how I learned from Bill Slawski, and I can tell with a high confidence that if Bill Slawski wouldn't exist, I wouldn't be able to create even a single SEO case study. I wouldn't be able to create my own company. I wouldn't be able to understand the search engines. I wouldn't be able to write anything meaningful for anyone. And while learning the search engine optimization, he was the main inspiration for me. I can tell that with high confidence. And even if you go to the theoretical SEO section of my website, you will actually see his name with these 2 different quotes, because nearly 2 years ago, or 1 or half, I don't know, I have asked Bill Slawski to give me a quote. For every subsection I actually have, I have at least 1 quote, and for this section I accepted only Bill Slawski. For the theoretical SEO, because without the theories you can't create SEO strategies, or you can't understand the search engines. You need to understand how the search engine works, and to be able to do that you need theories, and then you can actually create the practices. And here he has given me these 2 quotes. If you go to the Python SEO section, you will find another quote. Do more with less, Hamlet Batista, which is another name that we lost. So I have learned automation and coding from Hamlet, and I have learned many things about the SEO theories from the Bill. And losing both of them at the same time, nearly 1 or 14 months between them, is too harsh after a point. And when you look at here, you see both of them together, because both of them know each other is normal, but this picture has been posted here by Hamlet Batista to wish the good things about Bill Slawski, because Bill had a stroke during 2021, I believe. And Hamlet here, he actually has written a couple of things. We met online in 2007 and 2008. We also talked in malls and other things. We had Chinese food together, and I wish you a prompt recovery. And to the same place, I have also written a couple of things. And sorry for making this video that boring, but it's not that easy to be enthusiastic about such a thing. I am even not able to look at the camera that much. And here I have told in 2017, it's actually nearly 2016, I was thinking of leaving the SEO industry, because I was in the Black Hat SEO, and in Turkey, I have told it maybe before, but it was illegal completely, and people were going to jail, and there was even real world shooting, blah blah. I got my way to the SEObythesea.com by a simple coincidence. From here I met HoboWeb Co UK. Both Sean Anderson and Bill Slawski are great importance to me. And by the way, Sean Anderson, I also suggest you to follow him. He doesn't share so much things on Twitter, but HoboWeb Co UK is one of the greatest places that you can actually learn real SEO. And I am not talking about like 5 quick hacks that you can do, or I am not talking about 6 shortcuts tips, blah blah, not these type of idiotic titles. They won't appear there, and you won't have popular SEO names here. You will have real world research, boring things, but real things. And here I have written, I wouldn't have found my own company, Holistic SEO and Digital, with 10 clients in 2020. Today I even don't know how many clients do I have actually, but probably it's more than 30 or something. Every SEO case study, sorry for the typo here, I perform has fingerprints, especially Bill Slawski. Wherever I feel I am weak at SEO, I come back to do myself by reading articles on Go Fish Digital and SEO by the Sea. Bill Slawski answers the questions you ask, whoever you are, which is true. This was very important to me. By asking questions directed to the best, I could figure out which points to look at. In 2019, I created an SEO case study, which I also published on OnCrawl. Still, you can find it, by the way. It's just here. Let me search. Here, if you go here, my first article here, it talks about using core algorithm updates as an SEO strategy. Since they were so wild, you can actually use them for leveraging your own websites. If you search for the name, if you search for the name Bill Slawski, he is directly here. From the first case study to the last one, I have written more than 200,000 words in my case studies. They are actually a book. They are actually research. They are actually scientifically proven SEO methodologies with innovation. And that's why they are long, because I can't go there and just write great content. I need to explain teeny tiny details there to be able to prove how the search engine works. And that's why I needed Bill. And that's why in every SEO case study I thanked him. I mentioned him multiple times. And Bill Slawski is much more than just a patent reviewer for the SEO industry. He is a search philosopher. I think he trained most of the SEO industry. I think Bill Slawski is the strongest opinion leader and influencer in the entire SEO industry. And I can tell that he was a person who even the Googlers were not able to answer him back. He knew Google better than Google's itself. By examining the Google's patterns, it showed us to understand the search engine and see ranking changes. No other SEO influencer has this degree of originality, seriousness, scientificity, and consistency. If it weren't for Bill Slawski, I am sure even Google would encourage SEOs not to review their patents. This is why Bill has given all SEOs the most important educational perspective regarding the search engine's methods, understanding priorities and limits. By looking at the search engine's original calculations, methods, and drawings, it is possible to understand it manage your SEO projects. And at least that's more of what I do. With all my heart, I wish Bill Slawski a speedy recovery, peace and happiness. Without Bill, the SEO industry and the most SEOs like me would be in total darkness. We love you very much, Bill, and I stand. So I have written these things on this date for this website. It is created by Schawrtz, and I thank him for creating this place. I have written a kind of simple thing for the Bill Slawski, and when I write this thing, I have explained who he is, because I believe Bill Slawski's name, directly or indirectly, he is actually touching millions of people at the moment. It's not just about what Bill has done, it's also about how many different query results have been affected by the Bill Slawski. For example, probably I am creating more than 20 millions of clicks amount with my 30 lines, and every click actually comes from Bill Slawski. It means that averagely, probably, I am affecting like 20 millions of people with their clicks, and these effect comes from Bill Slawski. And this is only me. If we talk about other SEOs, for 17 years, he examined the patterns he has written and he changed how the SEOs think. And if you think like that, the Bill Slawski name represents a new SEO understanding, a call, and a search philosophy. and in an indirect or in a direct way, he is affecting millions of people, how they think, how they search, and how they click, and how they actually navigate with their browsers. It is highly affected by the name of Bill Slawski. I find a high level of similarity between Charles Darwin and the Bill Slawski, because the Charles Darwin was a person who was brave enough to think the first time an impossible thought. He actually explained highly complicated things by doing the deepest researches. He has went to the Galapagos Islands. He has gone to the other continents. He has collected samples from everywhere. He has taken images or witnesses or notes. And at the background of this image, actually, you see this is one of actually Bill's articles. This is one of the Charles Darwin's actual notebooks. And Charles Darwin actually was the first one who dares to think, tell, write, and prove. And from my point of view, the Bill Slawski, he was the first one. He was the first and the best one who dares to think, write, tell, and prove. And with that said, even Googlers couldn't answer him, and they didn't or couldn't police him. They couldn't tell that this doesn't work like that, because even they don't know these things like as he knows. And I probably know like 30% of things what Bill actually knows. I have read more than 1,000 Bill Slawski articles in these last 6 years at least, and I believe I know only 30% of what Bill actually knew. And that's why at the moment I have actually registered and stored entire Wayback Machine. I have archived entire SEO by the Sea into the Internet Archive. And at the moment actually I am downloading entire SEO by the Sea because I want to protect all this information, and I believe it should be accessible for everyone. And if you look at these URLs, any random URL, for example this one, actually it is index. Okay, let's go to this. I believe we will be able to open it. Sorry, I guess it was a different URL. Sorry, it was the saved file. This is the request file. For example, if you check any kind of random URL from the SEO by the Sea, you will always actually find many different aspects of the search engines. This was another example that actually I have opened randomly. Generation of topical subjects from alert search terms, and the year is 2007. This is another one, user distributed search results. And here actually he explains what this means. He connects these things to each other. He also creates a philosophy. He doesn't just explain what they write there, what they have written before, and what they can actually write there. He also examines these things, and also he shows you different ways of thinking, different ways of understanding the search engines. He even gives suggestions to the search engines while comparing them to each other. That's why he is beyond search engine optimization. He is actually one of the people out there who can understand the search engines in the best way. And if we try to choose other one here, for example, again to another one, here. This is the toolbar era. And another thing that actually you can use, refining search engine data based on client requests. And these actually might help you to understand how a search engine thinks for certain aspects. And another thing is that most Googlers or Google engineers, they are just experts for a single thing. For example, you can be a search engine expert, and it means that actually you are an expert for a single vertical. Amit Singhal was different. He knew many things, but most Googlers, they are experts for a single vertical. But when it comes to the Bill Slawski, he examined everything. He examined literally everything. He examined crawling schemes, or he examined the link schemes. He examined the link types. When it comes to the popular, well-known, famous SEO celebrities, they always give the most basic, ordinary, repeated things with just different music. And when it comes to the Bill Slawski, it's not just links, it's actually individual links, block links, C-type links. It's not just a single link, it's about indexing the anchor text and also uniting it with the web page index. And it is about understanding the semantic annotations with the links. It is about understanding the entire link graph while finding some seed sources. So from Bill Slawski's point of view, understanding the web actually goes beyond way much basics. He called SEO by the Sea as the SEO by the Sea. He has launched it during the 2005 because, by the way, in the old times, SEO is called search engine ranking. So Bill was there while SEO wasn't SEO. And they were creating some communities, and they were creating some different types of activities around the search engine optimization. And Bill, I believe in 2005, after a couple of community meetings for SEO, he started to write about SEO at the near of a lighthouse. I guess it was in Maryland or somewhere, I don't know. And then he called it SEO by the Sea because he was writing at the near of the sea about SEO. And this is a random example, the entropy of search logs and personalization with back off. So this is about actual personalization of the search results. And these are different types of search research papers. And imagine that a person reads all these things, finds all these things, writes all these things. And some of you might tell that, why didn't he actually create the biggest websites? Why didn't he actually create these innovation as you did? Because no one has to do it, to be honest. Some people just make the research. Some people just like writing them because, to be honest, it's more valuable than what I do. Because all this information already created my success. But without this, I wouldn't exist. So this is actually the hard part for these things. And as you see, I just choose random pages for all these things. For example, again here, SEO by the Sea, Yahoo replaces PageRank assumptions with user data. Another engagement-based search engine ranking algorithm, basically. And also we should understand what is PageRank and PageRank assumption, combating web spam with TrustRank. Another research paper here, board surfers don't only go trusted pages. Pages change and lose value at different rates. Without reading all these things, by the way, but like user-sensitive PageRank, also there is topic-sensitive PageRank. And when you read all these things, you are able to understand links way much better, and you can actually use your link budget way much wiser. And to be honest, again, when you have the budget, even if you buy the links in a random way, you will be able to rank. But it doesn't mean that actually you understand links in a better way, or it doesn't mean that you're actually a good search engine optimization expert. You are just buying links randomly and you have the budget. But if you read these things and understand these things, you can actually beat the biggest budgets too. And this is what even I do. Without links, I am actually creating the traffic. So in other words, if you read further for other verticals, you even don't need these things too. And again here, link weight, likelihood of randomly leaving a new page, satisfaction with found pages. And Yahoo, again, topic sensitive page link is here. Yahoo patents also matter too, because some of the Microsoft or Yahoo engineers, they also work for Google later. And let's find another random sample together while we are here. And Google, actually this is from 2006, 1 year after actually Bill started here. A look at Google mid-page query refinements. By the way, mid-page query refinements, what you have seen at the middle of the web page. By saying middle of the web page, I mean related search terms at the bottom of the search result page. And here we have some semanticity ratings like homonyms, like very general terms or narrow terms. And here actually the patent explains how they choose these things. Another important thing is that the patent actually has been filed in 2003. Another important thing is that the related search terms have been opened testing in 2003 too. So it is important because while they are actually giving search refinements as related search terms at the bottom of the web page, while filing this patent, they were actually already testing it on the SERP. And 1 year later, actually, they have also made it a permanent application for their SERP. And then actually they have been granted with the patent. And again, Stephen Baker, he is here, Paul Haar, he is here. They are both extremely important. Stephen Baker works for Apple at the moment. He is the person behind the feature snippets or web answers, in other words. In the semantic SEO course, it will be mentioned too. And here actually they explain how different related search terms actually bring different SERP instances closer to each other. And at the same time, different types of search refinements or search refinement behaviors, how they can actually filter it, and if they are filtered, how it can also affect the results too. They explain also semantic distance between these things as well. So there are some obvious samples here, but also it is very much beyond that, because creating a related search term cluster is not that easy. I have already read most of these things. That's why it's easy for me to understand these things. I guess I have some server errors. Maybe I should change the configuration later. SCOM using queries to detect and filter adult content. So again here, by the way, the s.com still alive, and s.com, by the way, it was able to render JavaScript way much before than Googlebot, even if we didn't talk about it. And here we have different types of patterns from other search engines. You can actually examine these things, you can compare them to the Google. Then you can understand how a search engine can understand a query with different methods, like query to pick, pick to pick. And then you can understand what these correlations mean and how they can actually understand the images and other things. And again, user engagement is here. And then actually you can create better results or better web pages for yourself too. So finally at 200, let's check another one, which is from the 2005. One of the first articles, I guess, the Bill has written. Can Google read your mind? Processing predictive queries. These are also called synthetic queries. And in other words, Google can affect how you think, how you search, and you can also affect how Google thinks too. And here actually it explains how different queries can be generated and how they can actually use for query refinements too, and how actual character embeddings can be used based on phrase lists or word lists, and how they can actually put in front of you. Again, popularity recency, a predefined metric possibly considering user profile or other things can also be used here too. And there are many different types of comments here. So as you see here, whichever article we are looking at randomly, without any kind of plan, without any kind of thing here, we are able to actually understand how the bill worked. I can continue to do this thing until the morning, and I don't know even when the video will end. I did not plan something here. I just wanted to tell that Bill Slawski is the greatest SEO, and he's a search philosopher who touches thousands of people directly and millions of people, or maybe billions, in an indirect way. And I just wanted to tell that his école should continue to live. And to be able to prove that point, I even don't try that much, because basically whatever he does, it continues. And as you see, from after 10 years here, we actually have word vectors or term vectors. We have deep learning and other things. And he didn't tell that, okay, this is too hard for me, I don't know what a deep learning model is and something. He actually goes beyond that, and he actually starts to explain high dimensional spaces or numeric representations of the words. Then he also puts all these resources. Then he also explains other things by saying sharing is caring. Let's go. Another one. It will, believe me, it won't end. Again, another one here. And I am sure that at some point, some Googlers thought that actually Bill Slawski is dangerous for them, because he actually makes unknown known for the people who know how to read. And when I write a SEO case study with 30,000 words, I know that most of you don't want to read it, but to be honest, I write for myself. And I believe Bill Slawski also has written for himself too. And here, for example, to be able to use this information, you need to read every day for 2 or 3 hours these things, and it requires loving these things. And after reading enough level of patents, research papers, and also updates, announcements, then you are able to actually understand or feel a search engine with their decision trees. You don't need to remember every concept, every term here, but after a point you will just internalize it in a reflexive way. You will start to understand what should be done. And here we have some other documents, context clusters in search query suggestions. So as I say, the first patent of the search query suggestions, just for the mid-page query refinements, we also have mid-string query refinements in auto suggestions. But here, for example, for any kind of search query suggestions, we can have different types of context clusters, means that we will have different types of contextual domains and zones, and we will be able to actually use them. And do you know who is this person? For example, this is a random web page, by the way, as you see. This person already exists in my semantic SEO course. And for example, if you look at here, you will find a kind of random profile, but senior staff software engineer for more than 13 years. And it will continue like that. So when you look at here, for example, they actually explain what ranked lab is. And if you're able to understand query composition system, you can also compose your own web pages in a better way. And here, most of the time, you will see query related things here, okay? Or topics related things. Again, Google alerts for new results from old searches. Or maybe we can choose another one. Let's wait for the next web page, maybe. When Google thinks, let's read this. Sorry, here. It's not easy to choose. Another query related document here, Google and misspelled queries. And as I know, 1 out of 10 queries actually have a typo. That's why it is really important to understand query semantics based on characters. And here we have other research papers and other samples too. It continues like that. If we just return my tribute to the Bill Slawski, here you will actually find many different things. Here I explain why Google actually feared from Bill Slawski. He was more Googler than Googlers without being a member of Google. And the search engine always try to hide their algorithms to prevent the gaming of the system, and the patent languages involve legal language, so it's not that easy to understand. Thus, understanding the search engines via patents is not easy. But when someone reads all the patents and puts them into order by explaining all the connections and external third-party sources logically, an important amount of people can understand the search engines. And if they can understand search engines, it means that they can optimize for the better. And another thing is that Martin Shiplett says that he is actually closing the gap between the search engine optimization experts or optimizers and developers. I believe Bill Slawski closed the gap between search engines and search engine optimizers. And I believe I am closing the gap between Bill Slawski and you. So my vision, I believe, is smaller than Bill, but we try our best. This is from David Harry. I'm also a fan of him. And I even didn't talk once to David in person, but he is a really interesting person. And even in the picture, still reading a patent, and actually David here, he explains how Bill actually records everything. And here I explain why he is actually a kind of Charles Darwin for us, why he is a search philosopher. I believe Bill Slawski is a philosopher of search because he improved the search system, understanding, examined the inventions, analyzed the search businesses, and created new channels to understand the search engines. Has seen 20 years of search improvements before any improvement happened, because he was talking about entities even in 2005. Now every SEO talks about entities, but we are already too late. They already closed the many things. And he knew which inventors would write what based on their previous inventions and knowledge. Bill Slawski wasn't just writing or explaining the patterns, he was explaining where the search should go and why it should go, and search engines even followed his insights, research, and foresight. He has created different types of information repositories to understand concepts of search engines. He created different search verticals or even other types of methods to consider or understand the search engines. And here I call disciplined and structured mindset for SEO, because I believe this is a mindset behind the search engine optimization of the holistic approach, because without discipline you can't do things in a consistent way, and without structured mindset you can actually organize your strategy in a proper way. And here actually Bill Slawski created it, because when you start to optimize a web page according to the Bill's documents, you start to think the next year updates. You don't just focus on existing state of the search, you actually create the best possible website even for the future. And while doing that, you also consider deep learning related algorithms or contradicting algorithms. You also take care of many different aspects relevant to the coverage of a contextual domain, or also a context layer understanding, or uniting different types of entities under a main context, and also choosing a main entity for the document while making others attribute. You also try to understand how the search engine created a query network and also query cluster, and you also try to understand maybe you can divide that query cluster and make the search engine create entirely a different search design for a group of query networks. And you try to understand, to be able to do that, what kind of an information retrieval score, query responsiveness, and page rank would be necessary. So while doing that, you always use him. For example, here in a discipline structured mindset for SEO, Bill Slawski has given some examples to help SEOs think. Of course, these are just 0.1%, maybe even not that much. A search engine also indexes the internal links and external links to create a link graph. A search engine indexes anchor tags along with the documents. The anchor tags are used semantic annotations. A semantic annotation can be used as a query autosuggestion. A query autosuggestion can change based on the popularity of an anchor tag. A change query autosuggestion can affect the overall relevance of a document to a query. The overall relevance of the document to the query affects the rankings. So this is actually a kind of chained effect. If you look at here, a search engine also indexes the internal links and external links to create a link graph. It means that it also indexes the anchor tags. They also use semantic annotations for anchor tags. Then they also, here already, and then also they use these semantic annotations for auto-suggestions. And then if the auto-suggestions actually change, it means that overall relevance of a document will change and rankings will change with it. So even your competitor's anchor tags can actually affect the auto-suggestions, and based on that you can also change your rankings even without you notice, and you might think that what happened without noticing. And to be able to affect these things, you need to do things in a bulk and consistent way, and here discipline and structured mindset actually comes really handy. Here I have actually written an article in 2020, and I have actually, this is Turkish, I have written like 18,000 words here, and I have actually focused on Google spam detection systems, and I focused on local search only. And while focusing on there, I actually said that when you take a picture with your phone, I said Google actually knows where you are. They actually know when you take a picture, they know which building is that, where you exactly are, and who even lives there. And they also know what kind of a query has been searched from that point of view yesterday and what was the satisfaction of that user. They already know foot traffic, where you visit, and actually whether you like it or not. And they also, I believe, if they unite these things also with voice search or voice search related things, they already know what kind of a music you listened there or anything they actually know. When I say that Google already knows where you are from pictures, I actually have proven it too in this article. That's why it is that long, because I need to be able to prove something. You need to put so much information with a logical chain, like a philosopher, and it's so hard. And when I have proven it, some people still didn't accept that. And then actually 1 year later, Google started to use the same system in the Google Maps. Here again, I am talking about gaming the system. Then I have shared this thing on Twitter, Street View Visual Query. Bill Slawski liked and shared this thing there. And actually after really short amount of time, maybe I didn't put the pictures here, but let me just try to find them from my phone, since I don't actually plan the videos. Sometimes these things happen. If you look at the images here, for example, if you look at these images here, you just show a picture, and from there they understand where you are, and they actually give you street visual queries and also suggestions, because they always tell you that put the camera or show any kind of store name or store name relating to the camera, so that they can understand which street you are in, and they can actually give you different types of suggestions. And this is again like that. And I have actually written this very much before, even in schema.org, which will be explained a lot via Ramanathan V. Guha in extra lessons of the semantic SEO course. Even there, actually, there are different types of structured data samples for just location of the building, but not just the location, also the left side of a building, right side of a building, and they were actually waiting for the coordinates, because Google actually indexes the physical world. They are beyond the online. And when I share this, Bill actually supported me. Some people say that it's not possible, blah, blah, blah. It's possible, highly possible. And Google landmarks also, it came later too, with different announcements. That we had actually brand penetration for regions. Again, it was about different types of regions, and they were trying to understand which brand is more important for which region, just based on the images in different locales and other things. So as I say, they have more than 40,000 patents. After 20 years of research, you start to understand. And why was Bill Slawski a threat to the commercial search engine companies? I believe I should change this was as is, because he is still a threat to Google, Microsoft, or others. Because when you actually know the search engines on that level, it's not that hard to rank the websites. But at the same time, as I say, it requires too much discipline and too much structured mindset, but still it can be done. Even with AI, since humans are not disciplined, but machines are, with AI, I know many samples that actually can take more than 50,000 clicks a day under just actually 20 days. It's possible, it can be done. Just scrape a couple of things, unite them, and then rephrase, and also use natural language generation, put some internal links based on some rules, and publish 20 million pages. Then check how the Google actually behaves. I have actually taken a video sample for that too. I won't publish it until the project ends, but you will see actually Google doesn't check the quality of the content before the 2 or 3 months, and if your website is too costly and suddenly growing, they won't be able to check your documents on that level because it's too costly. And why I did, or Holistic SEO, take Bill Slawski as a thought leader, I believe I have explained it already. And what to learn from Bill Slawski's life is only for the people who want to listen or read. You can read it later. And how he affected me. I believe this will be the last section, I guess, because as I say, I didn't plan the video. I'm just talking randomly, and if you watch still, thank you for that. And here we have some messages. I have actually many messages with Bill, many samples, and that's why I am unstable lately, and I am more angrier, and I can't endure other humans that much. While managing a company, it's not that easy, to be honest. And here, for example, some of these things are like random messages, because here I try to explain how he affected me and what kind of a culture actually he has given me and what I have done thanks to him. And I have put some concrete samples about how he actually educated me. For example, here I asked him a question about Google's Product Summit 2019 conference. I asked him certain types of Google algorithm questions. He gave me Paul Harris' word to listing. Just read this article from 2022. And I reported that URL, blah, blah, blah. And there are other things here. And here another example, I ask him a question about autocompletion using previously submitted query data. Anchor text has a broken link here, I say, and he fixes it. Another one here, actually, he also explains, by the way, these things, for example, the UPSTO and other things. And this is, for example, here I ask him for a couple of questions that I have written in Turkish. Again, he actually explains it is a fascinating topic as special attempts to predict using autocomplete. The patent office appeared to have fixed things tonight. Since he reported a link to the patent office, they just fix it later. Here I have an interview of Amit Singhal from Google Fellow. I shared it. I also love his old review from the New York Times. It helped me to think like Google. I continue to my article. There are lots of things to dig in the Google patents. Also, I will read your last article and listen to the last interview. I'm sure there are lots of things to learn from there, and a heart from Bill. Hello again. I was reading your presentation, Slideshare from Bill Slawski. I always read your articles for more than 5-6 hours a week, and later it became actually 4 hours a day. And I wish I could read them again as before. Did you think opening a school for search engine theories, optimization, and marketing? Every information from your presentation, articles, and speeches are insightful and inspirational. I haven't thought of opening a school. I do share my presentation and blog posts to make it easier for people to learn from them. Despite that, most people actually don't read that much, and they prefer to listen empty videos or garbage SEOs. Sorry for saying that, but it's the truth. Hello Bill, do you know this website? And actually this was from Dave Davis. He was telling me that also, he told me also to follow him. This is a sample here that I wanted to show you, because understanding the search engine is not easy at all. It requires too much reading, as I say. But here, for example, we have an example. Google Assistant actions can now continuously listen for specific words. And here I say, I remember that you have written similar things to this by sending this link I am saying. Yes, it sounds familiar. Google has been granted page TS on what it refers to as hot words that it recognized. It didn't write about any of these. I didn't write any of these. The actions I wrote about under a patent that was more focused on touchscreen interaction than voice interaction. Songs stuck in your head, just hum to search. This is actually the patent here, and these actually they are connected to each other easily. The hot words here actually, it creates a kind of like 3 minutes of window. If you tell let's say I, or if you tell any kind of noun without a verb, Google might assume that is a hot word, and they can start to listen your background. And they also listen your music background. They are able to even recognize the background music. They are already able to actually take any kind of song information from your app, since it's mostly Android phone. And then actually they can take the echo of the music from your room, and they can use it for recognizing the music as well. And also here, as you see, for example, most SEOs do not connect these Google services and products interchangeably to each other. That's why they also do not think holistically. But if you want to optimize things for search engines, you have to understand their old technologies and improvements. For example, many times I shared AI-related Google posts, and he also shared his thought by connecting them to the search engines. There are variations on this patent, but this one is recent and is about associating words with actions. Why I am saying it? Because when you associate a word with an action, as I say, if you use a kind of verb or a kind of noun as a single word or 2 words or short sentences, Google easily can be triggered and listen you. And at the same time here, actually, by saying actions like, hey Google, how is the weather, and can I go to the airport, or these type of things. Today, if you use Google Nest, it's not that strange for you. Google actually uses these things with key anonymization, but it's another topic. I also remember a patent that says Google can recognize background music playing via Android phones. Thus, was it aimed at developing and customizing the music search feature? Yes, it is telling me that songs are being played on my television and the radio. And hello Bill, I hope you are fine. Schawrtz offered me an organized chat event. I agreed. There are 3 things that come to my mind. Search philosophy, and what can be done on behalf of SEO with Python, minor, major, pay speed factors. The Bill said that the first one would be way much better than Search Philosophy is here as an SERP.chat event. And here I say, I think the first one is better because most of the SEOs and marketers don't think analytically. They do not know search engine concepts and nature. They don't look at SERP with the search perspective of search engine. I can ask some definitions of concepts such as canonical query, knowledge domain, or location sensitivity, etc. For Python and SEO, there are really interesting and futuristic things to do, such as automation, Google Trends, or certain queries, or creating custom SEO crawler, etc. Participate is another topic, but there is some information gap in the industry. For instance, nobody cares when we should use grid layout or flexbox for creating less rendering cost to the browser. Still, they don't think, despite this message was 2 years ago. Anyway, so here I have that screenshot from there, and here what it says. This sentence belongs to the Jason Barnard, which I love. And here he says he is a holistic SEO expert who learns a lot from Bill Slawski. Here another thing. Another screenshot here. Thanks for the heads up, and hello Bill. Many thanks for your answers and time. It means a lot, I say. He says you are welcome. Thanks for inviting me to part. We will grow together. He actually attended the event there. And we have other things here like no refreshed version of that once Wiggled. He says that you like it too, and I have actually shared one of the patterns from him. It was like that. You might be better served by asking someone like Hamlet Batista, he says. This was a good moment, you know. Two of your heroes, you know each other and they mention each other to you. And we have other samples here too. There has only been one patent about the author vectors. For example, he say, I will suggest looking up the inventors to see what else they have patented or what white papers they might have written. Here actually I ask about author vectors. I have published a video about it, the video actually one previous before this, and that video actually explained the author authority for different topics. And author vectors, it is an article that has been written with Lil Ray together, and it is a highly quality document, I can tell. And here I asked actually Bill how he uses these things together, and he explained them to me in a really well way. And I tell him that I already have actually 2 articles from you, but I couldn't have enough time for doing these things. And also I mentioned Lily here. I ask another question with mention, brand mention, entity reputation, and SEO relation. And I have found these things, these 3 articles from Bill 2014, 15, 13, and they all start with brand or named entities. And also I continued to ask like other things, and I told him that I was reading everything from you, but I forgot these things. How do you remember all these things? I asked. He actually told me that I am also reading what I have written before. And here I sent him an example of AI-related article. This is actually a kind of example of web page layout recognition with different web page elements. He also says thanks because we were sharing these articles with each other. And here I have created one of my first extensive amount of researches just for query processing, and he says that I already know this. Of course he knows because I actually learned all these things from him. Again, here I actually share another Google AI related things with Bill. He directly says that I see Dr. New York there, and I don't know who he is, but he of course knows. And here we have other things. I ask him how to find the related patterns. As I say, I choose random messages here, and these things continue like that. I ask him a simple question and he gives me all these articles one by one. He does these things all the time. And I also attended a couple of events with him, and I have put this image of Ammon here because to be honest, I am not that much good at remembering names or faces, and I remembered it later, but in Brighton SEO, Ammon actually approached me and he said, oh, a friend of face here. And since I am a kind of retarded for remembering the names and faces, I couldn't remember him, and then we have taken this image. It is important for me because he is a friend of Bill, and also I didn't or couldn't have a picture together with Bill, but at least I had a picture with Eamon. So it's a kind of good thing for me. And here I have Word of Hamlet Batista, and I hope Elias, the professor, will continue to stay with me, and I will continue to stay with him. And basically, this is, I believe, end of the video. The tribute for the Charles Darwin of SEO. Let's remember him, let's honor him, and let's continue to protect what he has written, and we should also improve what he has done before, and we should continue to add more and more information. And it won't be easy because he was an army as just a single person, but I believe we will be able to protect this tradition. And as I say, usually when I write one of my case studies, I write them in a way that they will be able to stay relevant, updated for the future. And if someone in the future tries to write history of search engine optimization, search engines, or even search, I believe Bill Slawski will have a place there as a kind of relevant entity to the future, as well as a kind of light or torch for the civilization. And when I write my SEO case studies, I write them in a way that even someone from 1 century later or 2 centuries later, that person can read these SEO case studies and they can understand actually how to analyze complex adaptive systems and how to actually convince highly complicated search systems or any kind of ranking systems. Because when we talk about search engines, it's not just about actually ranking websites and taking money. It's actually about how we can find quality signals among highly similar things to each other, how we can rank these things, how we can actually communicate to a community that tries to learn everything, and how we can actually understand a business that tries to protect every algorithm while actually creating thousands of documents, legal documents, nearly every decade. And when you read these things with this eye, you start to realize that there is always something more important than money, because one day we will all die. I will be dead, you will be dead too, and anyone who watches this video, one day we will all be dead. And I accept it. There is no other option already, but I am not sad because of it. I just wanted to perform myself, and I believe my purpose is changing how SEO is being done. And I also want to create the richest documents, richest proven methodologies for search engine optimization. And while doing that, I am trying to do these things in a way that these things will actually stay relevant to the future and will show people or the researchers the way. Because I have spent many times with the history, I know that even a single tablet, a single document from like 2000 years ago or 4000 years ago, or a simple stone from like 6000 years ago, it can actually prove many things, and it can affect how we think, how we behave, how we believe. So with that said, we shall always remember the name Bill Slawski. If you have listened, thank you, and take care of yourself.